And we are live with our special guest tonight, Joey I. Joey, I want to say thanks for coming on.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. This is great.
The cool thing about this is we got the idea from Kenny Smith's page because you had gone to his son's school.
Yes.
And spent some time with the kids, I guess, as like some sort of special event or a guest speaker.
Ironically, that's not the first time. It's a long story, but they every couple of years they have me down during their library week, and they have a Joey I Day. So it's an all
nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
8 a.m. to like 7 o'clock at night. There's something, they got me doing there. And I give my speech to them and you know how I got started and everything, and the boxing, movies, wrestling, arm wrestling, everything. And so this year they had a arm wrestle. I thought I was going to teach them how to arm wrestle.
Yeah.
No, at lunch I wound up wrestling arm wrestling everyone at lunch.
Nice.
It kept getting bigger and bigger, and I'm going, oh my God, I'm getting too old for this. I said, and they weren't even giving any breaks. I said, between rounds here, we usually have a little bit. They're like, oh no, and it was really nice. And Kenny's son had come right up to me and said, oh, my dad arm wrestled. And I was like, I just went, oh yeah, okay, and I'm thinking, I don't know,
Yeah.
And then Kenny put it up there, and you guys saw that. That was really nice.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And
I recognized your voice from at Philly practice from talking with Steve Rosenblum and
when we used to put on the claw, we used to do. I got involved with him. However long, because it feels like it's 20 years already. But I don't know, was it like less?
And Jimmy G, all those guys.
Oh, we call him Jimmy Walnuts.
Jimmy Walnuts. There you go.
Yeah, right.
He has the same name as Paulie Walnuts, his Gaultier. Yeah. So we always call it, But Steve had come to me, and after I forget, it was after the Nationals one time or something, and he came to me and said, why don't you come and do mine? And I said, okay. And I went there though, and it was in a bar somewhere in Bensalem, and there was nobody showed up.
Oh,
arm wrestling people in the bar.
Yeah.
I was like, so he said, hey man, you've been promoting things your whole life, boxing, MMA, whatever. I said, yeah. And I said, he goes, well, can you help me? I go, what do you want me to do? He said, help us me promote it. Let's get it out. I said, yeah. And it took off. It was doing, I remember you guys, and
that's cool.
Anything to keep, stuff like this competitive. I love any kind of competitive sport, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially one-on-one sports. There's nothing like it.
Right.
You can't blame it on anybody. There's nothing, you lose, you win, it's you,
Yeah.
And it's a very, as much as we are, it's an ego-driven thing. We're all showmen. We all, we love that. But the main thing is the competition to it.
Yeah.
That's why refereeing is such a rotten job in this sport, because you can't blame it on the rest of the teams. If you have to blame it on somebody, we'll blame it on the referee.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny that you arm wrestled everybody at lunch, because that's how most guys got into it, is arm wrestling at the lunch table.
You're right. Yeah.
School,
It is. It's exactly how you get into it. Or you lose it to a guy in a fight in the street, and then some other way you got to figure I could beat him. And go, I got beat in arm wrestling then,
Yeah.
There you
go. How did you get into arm wrestling?
I got into arm wrestling. As I was a fighter my whole life, and when I was so I was always working out and everything. And I was probably 16, 17, 18, and it came to I think it was Miller Lite or Miller Beer was running these tournaments, and they would go to different, just set up a whole thing outside. And I think it was maybe 4th of July in the neighborhood or something. They came through, and I remember I'm left-handed, but they only had right-handed. I don't know why, but back then that's what they were doing.
One time they did. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess because there aren't as many southpaws out there, but but I figured out, strong with both hands, and so I got into doing it, and I liked it. And then over the years, it kind of felt like it died out. But then, when World Arm Wrestling League popped back up, and they were on ESPN and everything like that, that I thought boy, that really is helping to bring this back out. And obviously, and because everybody, and there is some truth to it, but a lot of people only relate arm wrestling to like the Over the Top movie.
Oh yeah.
Which was a real tournament that they were doing while they, and they did not like Stallone even being there.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Fake arm wrestler.
Yeah, right. But when I went to the Walls World Champion, I made it to the World Champions for that, chips for that, and it was like that though. I mean, you got every character on the face of the earth in there. 9 tables are running all at once just for men. There's 3 more for women, and it's crazy. It is a crazy, but yeah, funny thing with Jimmy G, the first time I ever met him, he came to a tournament we were having outside in South Philly at a bar.
Yeah.
Dressed like Sly was in, as Lincoln Hawks.
Yeah.
I mean, the wife beater, the work pants, that French baseball hat, he had it on backwards. And I just walked up to him and said, "Hey, buddy, that only works if you can arm wrestle." And he went, "Oh." He turned away. He lost every match the whole day. And I said, "Don't blame it on me." I said, "You got a lot of work to do." I said, that outfit, I said, "This isn't wrestling. This ain't pro wrestling, man. That ain't going to scare nobody."
That's funny. He's a little better now.
Yes. Yeah. He's a character, but we all are,
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to Steve Stanaway just yesterday or the day before, and he said they're already working on plans for the sit-down nationals in 2027 because it'll be the 60th anniversary of them starting it.
That was started, yeah. That's pretty
60.
cool.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I actually like that too. It's because of being short. Kind of when you're sitting down, it kind of even helps to even things out a little bit.
Right.
I always hated to have to step on that the little step there.
Oh yeah.
Like, do you want the step? It's like feel like I'm 5 going, okay, to the top.
Right. That's funny.
But it is. It's but and it's also something with like I said, I'm in boxing my whole life, so I get a lot of like boxers that would say, "Oh yeah, I beat you, I could do this," and I'm like, listen, it's the same thing as in boxing. You got to train for it. You have to live this shit. I'm like, and I'm like, that's like guy walks in the gym and you got 20 pro fights and goes, "Oh, I'm a street fighter, so I can beat you up."
Yeah,
slap them all over the place. It's the same damn thing. It's not just brute strength. It's not, there's techniques. There's that, and everybody's got a different way, and no way really is wrong unless you're gonna hurt yourself. But
right.
Yeah.
That is true. I mean, it is similar to boxing in that way, where
but like I said,
a lot of technique, and if you don't train,
you can't. I mean, I'm living proof that being just tough is. I had a sign in my gym used to say, "Tough ain't enough." I would tell guys, "You come in here, you just think you're tough, go play football." You got to be smart. Use your whole brain. But when I was fighting, I thought I wanted to be like him. I got to be in Rocky 2 and I sat on his shoulders when I was a kid, and I thought, "Oh, I want to be just like him. I'm left-handed. I'm Italian, small. I want to be like Rocky." And I thought he was real, and I thought taking like 5-6 punches to the face was that's a good idea. And 30 broken noses later and a broken cheek, and I got arthritis now on my face.
Oh Jesus!
All the time, But people say I get joked about a lot. They'll say, "Yeah, you used to get mad if the other guy missed." I said, "Yeah, probably." I said, it's like I was there. Come on, try and knock me down. But it's just like with this, it's technique. It's skills. You got to use your even though you're using your arm, you got to use your head. I mean, you got to be smart with it. You can't just go, "Oh,
Yeah.
The only time it comes down to a little bit of just brute strength is when you got to get strapped up. Then you can't be like pulling it. You that kind of. But even then, there's ways. But yeah, it's very. Like I said, I just always love the competitiveness of it, and everybody, and nobody's got. I mean, you could be, nobody hates each other. Everybody gets along. It's like a small community,
Right, when they get up to the table and they're serious, and they might hate each other in that moment, but
in that moment, sure,
and how can you not? You're friends again, yeah.
Right. What are you going to walk up and go, "Hi, I want to be friends? Let's arm." Like you're competing. When you're done, though, just like in boxing, you hug and shake and. Go your separate ways or have a beer together,
Yeah. So you being in the boxing world and stuff like that has led to other opportunities too. Because I saw that you do some writing, you've been in some movies, things like that. That's pretty cool.
About 100 movies. Yeah.
That's awesome.
4 to Rocky movies. Creed, I played myself actually, which was like it was like a weird, like come around type thing. Cause like I got into boxing because I was bullied as a kid. I was little, I'm only 5'2", but I got bullied a lot. And my father tried to get me to go to the gym all the time. And I said, nah, why would I fight there? I'll get beat up there too. You know, I don't want to fight. I ran track. So they came to my school, picked all the athletes, and they said, oh, you run? I said, yeah, I do track. So you want to run Rocky? So I did. So, you know, I thought that this is great. I did that. And then coming all those years later, they came to me to be the technical advisor and everything for the movie Creed, but to also play myself. I was like, oh my God,
that's awesome.
Crazy. I got into this because of a Rocky movie, and all these 35 years later, they called me up to say, yeah, we want you to play yourself in a Rocky movie, which to me was like, it was incredible. I mean, it just, you know, and we were doing a scene, and as I'm standing next to Sly, and we're in the ring, and I said, you know, the last time I was as close to you, I was sitting on your shoulders. He went, oh my God, 1979. You're that little kid I put on my shoulders at the top of the art museum. I said, yeah. And if you hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here now. He's like, why? I go, oh, geez, come on. I said, you probably heard this a million times. You inspired me. You inspired a lot of people. He goes, yeah, I'm the cause for a lot of Italians that have brain damage. I said, oh, yes, you are. I said, yes, you are. I said, but, you know, I said, this is incredible because we wouldn't be here, you know, and here I am playing myself in your movie. And I handpicked every person. And I think this might be the only time ever in a boxing movie that everybody other than the main character were all real boxing people, trainers, fighters, referees, managers. The casting company contacted me and they're like, Joe, how come everybody you send is good? And everybody else coming in. I said, because you got like an ad up for like anybody who hits a bag at the YMCA is going to show up. I said, you know, so they said, I said, just tell me what you need. I got it. You know, oh, we need a referee, white back, Spanish, what? You know, oh, black guy, about 40. Got it. I'll send him in. Boom. You know, we need this. We need a Spanish guy. We need the one day the director Ryan Coogler just goes, oh yeah, give me all your Italians. I said, what do you mean? He said, give me every Italian fighter and trainer and everybody. I go, well, you know, there ain't a whole lot of us left around. I said, but I'll get every guy I know in the air. And the one scene where we're in, where I greet Rocky when he comes back to the gym, for some reason he got into his head to have it all Italian people. I said, I don't know what world you're living in. I said, even when I trained in the one gym that I used to train in when I was young, it was right near Pat's and Gino's Steaks. And that was an all Italian neighborhood, but I was about one of the only Italians, let alone white, that was in the gym. It was all black guys in the gym. You know, I said, what world you live in? He goes, you know, dramatic effect. I said, whatever. So I got everybody they wanted, you know, and we did, you know, but everybody's was real.
That's a cool fact.
It brings a realism to it. Like somebody like me, I'm like a pain in the ass. I'll be watching some old boxing movie, and I'm like, guys are over there can't even jump rope right, or they're swinging. You're like, these are actors. These are people they got right off the street, you know, and it takes away from it. But
absolutely,
yeah. But I've written some stuff for movies. I've done stunts for movies. The prop. I've been location manager and the technical advisor. For Creed, I was the only one to win a Screen Actors Guild award for my technical advice and choreography at the fight scenes. I was in a union hall at the Carpenters Union Hall for a watch party because I belonged to the Screen Actors Guild, and they come up to me, went to commercial, I'm sitting there with my wife, and they said, Joe, you want to come up and get your award? I said, what award? And they were like, oh, you won one. We came on the bottom of the credits. It said, you know, I said, no, okay. So I was like, and everybody else got snubbed. And there I am. They're all out in Hollywood. And I'm sitting in some union hall watching it, having a drink, you know. And, but, you know, it was cool. It was, you know, but, yeah, I'm wrote a thing now, and directing it and producing it and everything. We just filmed actually today. It's called the Sharky Twins.
Yeah.
And we're like these two half-ass wannabe mob guys. But me being so short, it's a comedy. It's so my twin brother's like over 6 foot tall, like
yeah,
Right. So but we're always like hustling and conning people and this and that, but we always seem to catch the raw end of the stick. Yeah. So we're the ones really.
That'd be cool.
And we're working on it now. We just filmed the 7th episode. We actually have about one more to do, and then we can. We've been working on this for about a year. And as soon as we get about 8 done, we can give them Netflix, and if they approve it, then and if not, maybe just keep making them in episodes and maybe put them in some festivals or whatever to see. But I've been using all like local guys, everybody I know. I want to try to keep it as Philly as I possibly can with everything. We were just at today we filmed at the number 3 dive bar, ranked number 3 in the country, dive bar, Ray's Happy Birthday Bar down in South Philly. One of those places like you can still smoke in. It's like one of the place hasn't changed in 100 years.
Right.
And but yeah, I'm friendly with the owners, and they said, come on in and do what you got to do, and but that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep everything, and a lot of what's being written are actual stories and things that have happened to me that I intertwine into it, without getting myself in too much trouble,
Right. Yeah.
I don't incriminate myself too bad.
Allegedly
happened. Yeah. That's a better way to put that. Yeah. I have to remember that.
Yeah, I think a dive bar evaluator would be an interesting career. I don't know if it would pay that well, but
yeah, right.
Interesting.
You sure get your drinks in,
Mm-hmm.
Dude, interesting people too.
You could do a pub crawl, and hit everybody hits every bar that you went to in the movie.
Yes, right. Yeah. That's a good one too.
The Joey I pub crawl.
Yep. Yeah. Kind of like they do those Rocky tours, and they go from the place to place to place to place.
Right.
Like same thing. And you could crawl to each place in the van they're in. You could have a video of each place we were filming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we throw this big event every year called Winter Blast,
and
it's the biggest tournament in the country now. And every time people come in from out of town, they want to go to the Rocky statue. Everybody.
Yeah,
that's the first thing they think about with Philly.
Fighters do the same thing.
Yeah,
that guys come from Australia. They wanted to get a cheesesteak, and they wanted to go to the Rocky statue, the steps.
And they always want to go to the touristy cheesesteak places there's always some dive place that has a way better cheesesteak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've been. Don't get me wrong though. The tourist places are tourist traps because they still are good. Became known for that, but we always have our places that we gonna go.
Yeah.
I remember a broadcast some years back where they tried to nail Ed Rendell. They asked him to be a Pat or Geno's, and he was like, he did a little dance about it.
He did a little dance around because he didn't want to make either one mad.
Yeah, when we used to go to the practice up in North Philly, well, not North Philly, but in Northeast. There was a Steve's Prince of Steaks.
Steve's Prince of Steaks. Yeah,
I like those.
I like those. I when they first opened, I used to bounce. I was like, as little as I am, I used to be a bouncer because I was a fighter. And I used to work. I started out working at a teen club that was called Mardi Gras, and it was right up there, like Castor and Cotman, and Steve's wasn't far from there. So like every night after work, that's right where we went. We would go right to Steve's, and they got still to this day have a real good cheesesteak. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't know if you're aware, actually, Rosenblum is coming out of hiding, so to speak, that he is a super match with one of the guys from Beast Mode at, speaking of bars, at a place called Black Betty's in South Amboy, New Jersey.
New Jersey,
yeah, that's going to be on July 19th. So
that's pretty good
for ages.
Yeah, he hasn't been doing anything for a while. That's good. That's good for Steve. I'd like to see that. Mm-hmm. July, you said? In July?
Yeah, July 19th.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we'll get out there.
Yeah, South Amboy.
So do you still attend any events, or would you if
I would? Yeah, I haven't done anything lately because I've been so busy with all this other stuff. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I love it. I just love, like I said, just love the competition of it, and the I don't know. I don't know if it's testosterone or whatever. That's all in the room at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
You know,
it is a good
the
community.
women have the testosterone going. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Plenty of guys doing that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, nowadays, if you don't take testosterone, you're not going to get to that elite level in the sport because they're all doing it.
It's a shame. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with baseball players, even. I mean, look what they're doing. You know what I mean? You know,
For real.
Yeah. You got guys like Babe Ruth smoked a stogie while he was sitting there and eating hot dogs and drinking beer and cracking home runs like it was nothing. And now they're like, oh, well, you gotta, and then you know, shooting this in the wrist.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. I mean, come on.
It's like lab created guys.
That's like you really would believe that there isn't even any. I don't know. I even would say the quarterback on a football team is juicing. I mean, come on. They're just, you know, bigger and bigger and bigger all the time.
Yep.
And and it ain't from the food.
Yeah. Now you're getting into like peptides and stuff to make them heal quicker and this and that. Craziness.
Yeah. And they also get a lot of they're babied much more than they were before. You know, nowadays. You know, it's they make way more money, but it's like, you know, because they're making all that money, it's like, well, we can't have him get hurt. You know, if he does, let's not just hit him with a shot of, you know, cortisone and get back out there. They babied him.
Yeah. Do you still do some boxing promoting? Are you still involved with any like gyms or promotions?
Yeah, I have a couple gyms I'm involved with. Rosati's gym in South Philly, K&A Boxing Gym in Kensington. You know, I help them out any way I can. And with promoting, I'm not promoting so much myself, but I do help a lot of the local promoters, you know, make matches, put shows on, you know, locking down an arena, you know, because, you know, I've been around forever and, you know, so, you know, a new promoter might come to town. If I know them, you know, I might take them, you know, because some of these places, it's like they don't want to deal with anybody if they don't know who they are. So, I know the owners of some of the different arenas. So if I go in with them and vouch for them, you know, then
that's cool.
To get them in. Yeah.
Whenever guys come to town and they ask where's the best part of the city to visit, I always say Kensington.
Oh yeah, you got it.
I sent them there.
I just recently invested in Kensington, so
good. It's gonna. They're gonna.
I've been saying this for years.
They're going to turn it around, and then everyone's going to get rich.
Down, there's nothing left. Like it's all filled up, and it's coming, and it's just going to keep going north. And already. I mean, you know,
if you look at what they did in like Fishtown,
that's what I'm saying.
Now there's like beautiful apartments and restaurants everywhere. And
I remember like 30 some years ago, I was a cement contractor for years, and I remember in Northern Liberties, like, you know, going to some of these properties for a real estate guy, and like, you know, side of a building kind of fell off, and we're like re-bricking it back in, and I'm going, the bricks I'm putting in are worth more than this whole property. Like, why would, you know, like nobody wanted, you couldn't give those away at one point. All of a sudden, that changed, and then next place, Fishtown. You know, my wife had a friend who had been left a house to her. Her aunt died or something, left her house, and this is probably 20 years ago in Fishtown, and she couldn't give it away. She wound up selling it for like $4,000. She's like, "Oh my God, I could get $500,000 for that house now." And it's like, "Yep," but you know, it's just all the change that comes and the progress, and you know, like Rocky's gym, Mickey's gym, there, under the L on front and Dolphin. That was a vacant building for years. It never was a gym. The inside of the gym was used in LA. The outside was just the outside of the building. It used to be like a plumbing supply place. Yeah. And it sat vacant for years. Now they redid the whole thing. There's all these like nice apartments upstairs, and the downstairs is a craft brewery place. And all the hipsters are going right to, and you know, and so it's just the progression is coming up.
Oh yeah.
And
my brother got an apartment in Fishtown, and I was like, Fishtown? And then I went to visit, and he had like the top floor with a fucking view of the city. I'm like,
you're like, hey,
it was beautiful. Like, beautiful apartment.
And but they're slowly cleaning all that up, and the mayor deemed K&A right in Kensington, Allegheny, where I bought a property. Just recently deemed it what they will call the enterprise zone. So in the next 4 years, they're sinking tons of money in all the businesses and properties all in that area.
Yeah.
And there's already developers, 3 or 4 developers that have come through there and bought up whole blocks.
Oh yeah.
And ripped them, you know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
They know what's coming.
They start building up high rises. So I said, you know, property, you know, a friend of mine needed somewhere to live who runs a gym, the K&A gym right around the corner from where I bought. And I said, hey, I'll buy this and you can live in it if you're really going to do it. And he said, yeah. I said, because you're going to be like my bulldog. You're going to be my security guard. I said, But so
that's cool.
Helped him, helped me, and and hopefully someday maybe I get something I can retire on. Yeah,
because there was a time where like you start looking for properties and like some of those abandoned buildings were like you could get them for like $5,000.
Yeah.
Now,
like
now you're going to flip that
in October, end of October. Yeah. There's lots going for more money. I just saw today lots going in that area for more money than I pay for the whole house.
Oh my God!
It's already my property already doubled since just in 5 months.
Just from them releasing the information about the plans.
We're doing this and we're doing that, and they really are. So but like you said, when it was at its worst, say about a year ago, you couldn't send a video to somebody or describe it. You had to go there. The smells, the sights, it was like, holy shit. You were in the shit. I remember my son was riding his motorcycle through there one time, right? And he's right under the overpass at Kensington and Lehigh, which like Rocky Street was like right up the block. He's sitting there. It's in the middle of the summer. He looks over and he sees this woman standing there with a compact, like a makeup compact. He's looking, going, really, this junkie's over here like going to put makeup on? No, she was looking for someone to stick the needle in her neck. He was like, oh my God. Let me get out of here.
I've driven through there many a times just for work or whatever. And you see people on the side of the road blowing people. The zombies are all in.
You can't tell somebody. They got to go see it. That you had to see it. Like
like you could walk down the street there, and they're all in like yoga poses, out on their feet.
Well, we call the Kensington yoga when they're like they're leaning over like this. Yeah. And they don't fall. I
don't even know how they stay up there. They're like on one foot upside down, and they're still up. I'm like, you could walk down the street there and push over 10 people, and nobody would do anything about it because they're all zombies.
It is.
It's crazy. We got a $5 super chat from Carolyn Looms. Great stories, Joey. Would you ever take a super match? If so, versus who? Love the Creed tour idea. Salute.
Maybe I'll have Jimmy Walnuts there.
There you go. There you go.
I don't know. I'd have to really think about that, but but I have messed with him a few times. He had a table and he would bring it to the bar that we're always at on Monday nights. We do have a boxing club that we're called the Philadelphia Pugilists Association. I started it like years ago. And there's a place called Jimmy's Time Out Bar. It's a boxing themed bar in Northeast Philly, and he had a table. He brought it in, so we were going at it whenever he would bring the table in. But just giving some pointers.
Do you have a son didn't one of your sons sing like the national anthem at something? For
my youngest son, my youngest son, he sang at a couple of the shows. For the arm wrestling. He's actually sung on worldwide television on the Zone in some really big fights.
That's awesome.
Bring him in. They'd be like, okay, Michael Buffer's announcing him. And he was like little at the time when he was, and he's like, I'm like, Michael Buffer just announced it. And he's like, who's that guy? Like, he's like, but we don't know where it came from because I can't sing and my wife's even worse than me. I don't know where the hell this came from. One time he just happened to say at Christmas time, and Christmas Eve being Italian, that's our Christmas, Yeah. And he says, when everybody's over, I'm going to sing White Christmas for everybody. I went, no. We don't sing. We do a lot of other things. Nobody sings in this family. He goes, no, I'm going to do it. He got up on the steps in front of everybody and he sang the dance. He was like, where the hell did this go? Yeah. And then, got him some lessons, this and that, but he's now about to graduate high school.
Oh, wow.
He'll graduate this summer he goes to GCIT in Jersey, and they have it's a tech school, but they have a performing arts program, and he's leaving there as soon as he graduates there, going to New York, going to be on, going to try out for Broadway, go live up there.
Nice.
He sings, dances. the whole thing. Acts well. He's and he loves his whole thing is musicals. Like I try to put him in some of these movies I do. He goes, I'm not good with it. I don't like movies. I'm not doing movies. I'm just doing plays. And I'm like, okay, whatever, But yeah, he can sing his ass off. Yeah, and he told me when he was little, the easiest song I ever sang, national anthem. I'm like, you're the only person ever said that. Even when like people were like, that is a hard song. And
hell, damn.
Yeah, but yeah, we had him sing it more than once. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Arm wrestling shows, yeah. But I always tried to bring something to it for everybody, to kind of, build the whole thing up, make it a show, make it
Yeah, most adult males can't hit the rocket thread glare without grabbing them.
No, that's the truth. That is the truth. Then you got everybody else messing it up, spin on it. And
I love it when someone tries to sing it like a star and they're drunk as fuck.
Yeah,
and they fuck it up big time. I'm like,
that just or somebody just wants to keep making it their own and they go way too long until you're like,
their fucking runs are like
fucking crazy already. Yeah.
Calm down.
But yeah.
So would you ever do like a guest appearance at an event or something?
Sure. I'm sure I would.
That would be awesome.
I'm not, I'm everybody. I'm,
I'll definitely talk to you about some ideas and stuff.
Yeah,
we're
great.
we're trying to do some big things in the Philly area. So
well, here I'm telling you, it just this area, like I people in Philly, we come from being tough. You know what I mean? Everybody, we're like blue collar, like they say, carry your lunch pail and hardworking people. Even the white collar people are way tougher than somebody in Connecticut. You know what I mean?
Right.
It like they say, Tex Cobb once said it. He said, "Yeah, Philly, even little old ladies know how to hook off the jab."
Yeah. I saw a dude tried to steal a purse from a little old lady, and she yanked it back and knocked the dude right in the mouth. I was like, "Damn!"
Telling you,
imagine that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. But that's what is needed, and when you bring an arm wrestling show, you want the tough guys, you want the people that are
See, like the problem with arm wrestling right now is it's been around 30 years, or more, and it hasn't gone fully mainstream yet.
No,
and the reason is I feel like a lot of these promoters just cater to arm wrestlers. Like they want arm wrestlers to want to watch it, but the trick is to get non-arm wrestlers to watch it.
You got to start getting maybe some pretty boys or something, so the women start getting,
right.
like, you know what I mean? Or
you got to make it more exciting.
Yeah.
Because if you're an arm wrestler and you watch and they keep stopping the match, we get frustrated, but we know the rules. Imagine someone at home watching that doesn't know the rules. Like, why the fuck do they keep stopping it? And it gets boring.
Yeah, and in this day and age, see, that's why MMA got so big, like UFC.
Oh yeah,
because this generation wants everything yesterday. They don't want to watch like boxing where guys go 12 rounds.
Yeah,
they like the quick, and I work a lot of that stuff too. I work as a cut man for all that stuff also.
Nice.
So I see it. These generation coming up, they want everything fast. They want it, fast, quick, and nasty. And so if you keep stopping matches or this, because that's what almost killed like MMA, UFC stuff was the guys be down on the floor too long, then people like lose interest. I'm going, what the hell am I watching here? They're not moving, So they came up with a rule that if nobody moved for 30 seconds, they make them get up. They come over, and it looks a little weird. Then they got to get back in the center of the ring in the same position. So kind of can look like you're setting up a gay porn. You got two guys, and it's like, okay, well, he was like this.
Yeah.
You're going to go on, and then they get back and they start all over again. But at least they did that to, because it was killing it, because people want the action. And, this is the same thing. This is all action. I mean, you just keep going, boom, 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 and I always like when you get it where, it's a back and forth match. I love that. Everybody loves to also see a quick boom, but a quick
the wars are good.
Going back and forth. Yeah. I mean, and one guy's technique is working and then the guy starts gassing a little and then, and they come back, it's, but again, like I said, this is something you train for. This is something you train your body for. You can get hurt. I blew my shoulder out in the nationals. I was supposed to go to Bulgaria. I took second. I was supposed to represent, for my weight class and I couldn't go. I blew my shoulder out and I was like, oh, bitch, but yeah, you can, I had a weird, I don't know if you ever knew this or know of this, because everybody does different things to train, obviously, right? Well, one of the important things that I was taught is not as just as much as your muscles need to be strong, your tendons need to be strong. So I had an old strongman guy. He recently passed away. His name was Sonny the Strongman. And this guy was still like 80 years old and bending horseshoes, whatever. And he came to me, he said, I used to arm wrestle years ago. And he said, that's how I got into this, to being a strongman, and I said, okay, and I said, so what? He's like, I'll train you to bend metal and it's going to help you with the arm wrestling. So I would go over like 3 times a week and between my training and, he had me bending nails, ripping phone books. He had me bending frying pans with one hand. I had all these like I would bring home nails that were like this big, and I'm like just bending them in half, and and it did, it did help. It mimics like when you're arm wrestling. So
there's a lot of guys that do like the grip sport stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Strength. A lot of strength sport guys are starting to get into arm wrestling. Like Brian Shaw and Eddie Hall and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I also had a thing. It was like, what can I do when I'm by myself, when I can't be like practicing back and forth with somebody, but I want to strengthen. I'm strengthening my arm. I took a truck shock absorber.
Yeah.
And I mounted it kind of on a tape, on a plate, and I used to like fight that down. Won't come back. It would come back up, fight it back down. So it was kind of like I was arm wrestling.
And now they sell those.
See, I should have. Typical. I should have patented that. It's like there's some things in boxing that I came up with that should have patented that. And
Well, how'd you get the nickname Joey I?
Well, my last name begins with the letter I.
Yeah.
So, there's
just kind of a little tweak on it.
Yeah. It became a tweak that it worked out as a cut man. But what happened was I made it EYE years ago when I was fighting. There was a bad picture of me getting like punched in the Daily News, on the back page of the Daily News one day, right? And I was fighting at the Blue Horizon. And my father's like, oh, you got to go see your grandmother. She thinks you're dead. I said, what do you mean? There's not a mark on me, Dop. I'm like, come on. He goes, no, you better go see her. She's all upset. So I said, all right. So I go and I see her. And I said, Mama, I'm fine. And she says, I don't like, why you got to do this boxing stuff? That's no good. And I said, because that's what I do. I like the box. And she said, I don't like this. And what I don't like, and I have my last name right across my trunks. And nobody could ever say my last name as it was, so they call me Joey I anyway. Because Intrary is our last name, and when you see it spelled, it's you're gonna, everybody messes it up. So I said, well, what do you mean you don't like? She said, no, I don't like that. And if your grandfather was still alive, he wouldn't like it either. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. I said, all right. Well, what do you want me? She's like, I don't like you using that. It gives us a bad name. So it's all right. So I won't use that name anymore. So I put Joey I, and then I became a cut man, and it just perfectly worked.
That works, yeah.
Fixes, yeah. And my logo is a bleeding eyeball. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, since you get these non-Italians don't know how to pronounce the Italian names, like here in Allentown, we have the Iacocca family with Lee Iacocca and whatever, and they've been running a hot dog stand for a series of them for decades, except it's Yacos, Yoccos, because they figured the Dutchman would never be able to pronounce Iacocca.
Right.
So, but
that's everybody's names get like but even Italian people are going, how's your last name? Intrieri? And I'm like, well, because Italian, it's really supposed to be intrieri, but who the hell is going to say intrieri? So
Right.
it just became Americanized where it's intrari, but it doesn't look like that, when you say it. So it just was all right. I'll just, but yeah, my grandmother hated that. She really hated when, I would be in training for it. And trying to make weight, and I'm like, Dad, I'm not even going to go to her house on Sunday for dinner. He's like, no, you have to come. I'm like, just the smell is going to make me gain weight. I'm like, I can't do this. And she's going to, I'd be over there, and I'm like, they're like, why isn't he eating? What's the matter with my food? Nah, it's so good. He can't. What's my food is good. We're like, well, yes. I'm like, your food's good, but it's going to make me gain weight. I can't do it. And one time my father said, and my grandmother made the greatest meatballs ever. They melted in your mouth.
Yeah.
And my uncle says, just eat one and then, you eat a little and then spit it out. Oh, he's spitting my food out. Like, I told you, and then even with doing that, the next day I was 2 pounds heavy. I'm like, see, I told you, just the smells would make me gain weight. I'm like, come on.
Like the scene from The Godfather where Clemens was teaching Michael
how to make spaghetti sauce. Yep. Yeah.
So I have a real serious question for you.
Okay.
And I'd like your expert opinion on this. So some arm wrestlers now started doing semen retention. Now in boxing,
yes,
I'm sure I've also heard that boxers have done that. Is there actually a fucking point to it? And does it make a difference?
I'm gonna give you the easy way, like a layman's version of this. Okay. Say you haven't gotten any for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Right? You're not a happy person, are you? You're on edge. You'd like to kill somebody. The minute you get some, you're happy as a clam. You love everybody, right? You don't want to go in that damn ring in love with everybody, happy as a clam. You want to go in there, and it really does work.
Yeah.
You see it. I see guys that I don't see. Like, I'm working the corners for guys sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I don't know them other than when I see them at the fight. I'm not in the gym with them, whatever. Guys are going, I don't know what's wrong with him. He was great in the gym. I was like, yeah. That was he was fucking cool. Yeah, he was, he was banging.
Yeah.
But come back end of the fight, and they'd be like, "What the hell?" He goes, "I don't know. My legs didn't feel right, and this and that." And it's like, "Yeah, He goes, "Well, just a little bit." And it was like, "Yeah." I'm telling you, it really is. It's a lot of it's psychological, but it's you're because 90% is mental in boxing.
Yeah.
10% body. But when if you're messing around, I don't know how much that is going to be for a arm wrestler as to a guy getting punched in the face.
Right.
Because you have to also, you're talking about round after round after round, 3 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
You only get that 1 minute break. But, arm wrestling, I mean, if you went 3 minutes in an arm wrestling match, you Jesus Christ, your arm would probably fall off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I get it. I do. I can see why some guys would say, and it really ain't going to hurt nothing. So say what, 2 weeks before one, you're not messing around, it's not going to make it any worse. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like I said, night before an arm wrestling match, and you met the girl of your dreams, and whatever, or not the girl of your dreams, maybe even the next day you're not focused.
Someone you might have had to pay for.
Maybe you're not going to be that focused on it. You know what I mean? It's not going to hurt you not to. Put it that way.
Roy Baker asked, "Is it still semen retention if you save it in a mason jar?"
Well, that's a little different kind of saving. That's a little kind of retention. No, I don't want to know what the hell you're going to do with it too. You're going to show everybody, look how I got a mayonnaise jar full of friggin' jizz.
Jim Mancini asked, "Can you tell which fighters are holding out, asking for a friend?"
What? That are lying to you?
They're holding out on getting laid.
They're holding out. Oh yeah, definitely. That's what I'm saying. You can see a guy come on a Friday. He's all week. He's been good in the gym. Then he comes in on Monday, and it's like, and he's just not there. It's like, there's only a couple of reasons. Usually it's that. Usually he got lucky on Saturday night. You can definitely see. You can tell when guys don't run. You can tell. I mean, you can. I've been around so long, pushing almost 50 years that. Guy walks in the gym that wants to fight, I could tell him, I can automatically be like, turn right back around. You can hit the bags all you want. You're never going to be a fighter. You can tell by guy way walked in. that, it's just the way it is. I mean, it's,
dude, I'm married. I got a 5-year-old. I'll tell you about.
Well, you're a fighter. You're a fighter. That's a fight you never win, though.
No. I've been retaining semen for years. If I want to unretain the semen, I have to do it myself.
Yeah, well, self-love there. Yeah.
Yeah. How about that? Do you think masturbating has an effect on boxing?
It's the same thing. If it comes out, it comes out.
Right.
Yeah. If you come on, I mean, you're probably not as happy when you do it to yourself when you had somebody there, So
it's probably good training for arm wrestling, though.
Well, that's true. But I always, whenever I see the fight doctors, my joke always is, and they wait for me to do it. I'm like, "Hey, doc, my arm hurts when I do this," and they go, "I don't do that." But I have this one doctor. Every time I say that to him, he goes, "I told you to use the other hand." I'm like, all right, I'll break it up.
You gotta switch off.
Yeah, I gotta switch. Yeah.
That's funny.
Strange, get some strange. But,
so if someone wants to find you on social media to say hi or introduce themselves, where is the best place to do that?
I'm old, so the only place you're really going to find me is on Facebook.
Facebook.
I mean, there's YouTube videos and stuff you can, but I'm all over the place. But yeah, I'm not a big Instagram guy or anything. I honestly don't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
Running a business, I mean, I
gotta say thanks. Like, I didn't know whether you'd respond or not when I sent you a message on Facebook, and you responded right away. So that was pretty cool.
I guess I don't know. I always want to respond to anybody. I feel bad when I don't recognize somebody. I'll tell you the truth. I'm like that way. I just, people come up to me at the fights and I'm going, I know I'm getting a little punchy, but was I supposed to know him or is that just somebody who's a fan? Like, they'll be like, hey, and my standard answer is like, hey, it's good to see you here. And I'm like, shit, I can't remember. But yeah, I just recently, there was an Italian newspaper that contacted me, and it's in the area, the Italian American Herald. And it's actually out now. It just came out, the edition of it. But the guy reached out to me from seeing something else, and he asked, could they do a profile on me? And I immediately said, yeah, but whatever. And the guy was like, got back to me. He goes, wow, most people we try to get a hold of for like weeks or months. He's like, you got back to me in an hour. I was like, yeah. I was like, sorry, I was a little busy. I couldn't get right back to you that minute. But yeah, it's
awesome.
I always try to, you know what I mean? I really hate, not that I'm a big shot or not that I'm anything, but you're out there, you're involved, and you're in the public eye or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I hate these people that they get rich and famous and then they blow people off, tell them to go or this and that. I've been around some of these guys and I'm like, the fuck is his problem? And like, it works for him. He's telling little kids to go fuck themselves. I'm like, come on, like what the hell? Like
fuck that.
You got to that point because see, what I always say is, without the fans, you've got nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Any sport, without the fans, there is no fight, or there is no game, there is no arm wrestling matches. And proof to that was during the pandemic when they were allowing the fights to happen again, but there were just fights. There was nobody in the arenas in these giant places over there, and I'm like, I didn't even want to be there, and I'm not fighting. I'm going. All you hear is like feet tapping around and it's like
weird.
Yeah. I don't know how you, as a fighter, or any kind of competitor, you could get up for this without it, because in any way that you guys or me or anybody, before we did anything in any sport that we're involved in, you were a fan first.
Yeah.
Fan first. The most important people are the fans. So if you're not going to reciprocate to those people, and then they're going to be like, screw you. I mean, I have people want to talk to me and meet me and say, like at the fight, to say, we come down just to see you. I go, you're looking at the wrong person. I'm like, you're supposed to be watching the fight. I'm like, like how you work and this. And I said, well, thank you. Thanks for, and I mean, somebody asked for a picture, an autograph for free. I get guys all the time, would you take a picture with my wife? I'm like, you want to take a picture of your wife? I'm like, okay. Anything else you want? But
you guys do it later.
We'll take it. But it's and it's great when people recognize from all the goofy movies I've done and stuff. I think I've been in like 100 movies.
That's awesome.
I mean, a lot of them, never made it off the cutting room floor. But but I've been in, and people go, "Oh yeah, I saw you in this and in this episode of that," and it's like,
that's
it's
cool.
great. Yeah, it's really, because this is all show business, and it's just it's nice, to like you said, if I came to something, I would love that. I mean, it would be great.
Yeah, maybe we could do something, promote it, and like really get some people to come out and meet Joey. You might like this. Like, so the name of our group is 98% Arm Wrestling.
Yes. Yeah.
So the reason that's our name, and I think this would work for any sport. So only about 2% of the top elite people are that level. The rest of us in the sport are the other 98% that are grinding every day to get there.
That's the thing. Like the same thing when people go, "Oh, you're a movie star." I go, "No, I ain't no movie star. I'm a working actor." That's about, that's the way I would put it.
Yeah.
We're the people that are always, I'm that guy that you might not remember my name when you go, "Oh yeah, I think I saw him in this." Like that's it, but yeah, and you're right, because it's like with boxing, it's like 1% of 1% makes it,
and these big promotions, they only focus on the 2%.
Yep, that's exactly.
But it's us that are buying the pay-per-views, buying shirts, buying tickets.
Yep,
and they forget to cater to us. Yeah,
I get that with, if I don't have, when you have a big promotion for a fight, they come down. This has happened recently, 3 times in a row. Happened. There's a big promoter from England. They come over. Well, they're really, all they care about is that 2%, the co-main event and the main event.
Yeah.
I have anybody on the, say I just have a couple guys on the undercard. The minute you're done, they're like, "You're done." Like, and they lead you out the door. They close the door. Like, wow. Yeah. Like, what was I gonna do? Was I gonna rob the place? Like, one more, a couple more. Yeah. When they're done with you, you're just a piece of meat, and it's like, hit the road.
Yeah.
And that's not the right way to do business with people.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and
we've shined a light on the 98%, and because we do that, we've grown at a crazy rate, because everybody can kind of like, they feel like they're part of something instead of having to wait to get to that 2%.
That's
they feel included more, and that's our goal, is to shine a light on the 98% guys, because those are the real part of the sport.
Real guys, they're the real tough.
There's
guys.
no 2% without the 98 guys that are, the ones grinding every day playing the sport.
And that 98% wants to get to be that 2%.
Yeah, right.
So you work your ass off to get,
and those 2%ers at one point were at 98%.
That's what I'm saying.
Eventually,
start out
come right back to the 98%.
Right? That's the other thing. Yeah. Like they say, watch. You got to be nice on the way up, because you're going to see the same people on the way down.
Right.
So it's but that's
so it's worked out good for us with that theme.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like I said, all this competitive type sports, when it's one-on-one stuff, it's all the same. You guys are putting their time and work in. They might never get to a certain point. They might have more ability or miss, or maybe they didn't have the look somebody wanted, or this or that. So they're out there grinding their ass off to try to become like that 2%.
And it's crazy to me, because it's not the 2% guys that are buying pay-per-views. It's us.
No, yes.
We're the ones paying for everything,
and all those lunch pail guys putting their time in.
Yeah, and we're the ones, buying shirts, buying whatever, handles to train, all this stuff. And the big promotions only focus on the 2% guys.
That's what I felt.
There's a lot more of us than there are them.
I felt like that when I went to the World Championships. I felt like, they just, picked all the guys like us to be the opponents, like the tomato cans, to their 2%. What I mean? Yeah, they were just making sure, their guys up here didn't lose.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't go for that. I like good competition.
Like a lot of tournaments will have the pros go first, and we don't, because if you have the pros go first, they leave.
Right. It's got to be a build-up. Exactly. Yeah. That would be like putting the ticket seller on.
First
tickets. He's not, even though he's not the main event, you better keep his ass really as close you can to that main event, because if not, everybody. I had a guy could sell 450 tickets. He was a heavyweight, but he was kind of doing it as a hobby. And I kept telling him, this ain't no hobby. This is a business. Boxing's a business. It's not a game. It's a sport, but it's not a game. And you got to live this. And he was like, and he was a forklift operator. And but we'd be in the Spectrum back then. And you see, he always wanted to be the first fight. And he was like, he clubbed somebody out, some half-ass guy in the first round. And all of a sudden you'd see friggin' a sea of white T-shirts that had his name across them like this. Leave. And they go to a local bar. And because I had him and it was at the Spectrum, all the local bars were calling me going, Joe, we'll buy his robe. We'll do this. We'll give him love. Can you just have the after party here?
Yeah,
I remember walking after the fights. I had they were already there since the end of the first fight. And I come after the show's over. I come walking up on I think it was one of the bars that was in the movie Invincible. It's a little tiny corner bar. I couldn't even get in. There's people all outside. They had to pass me drinks out the door because that's how many. There's like 500 people jammed into a corner bar. Was it for this guy? But but that's doesn't help boxing. Like when But so maybe it helps if you, like you said, put them on later. And maybe it gets some people more interested, than just that person that they came to see. And the same thing with the arm wrestling. I mean, pros, I would never, like, we do pro-am boxing sometimes, and the amateurs definitely first, first, and then you do the pro show. Yeah.
Carolyn said $2 super chat. Chiefy from Team Stone versus Joey I. Hey, would you be willing to do like an exhibition arm wrestling match, something fun with like someone close to your weight?
Yeah, we could do something
just for fun.
Everybody's probably picking somebody that's 300 pounds. Yeah,
yeah.
I've always gotten stuck with that too, and I used to fall into it when I was younger. Charity events.
Yeah,
so we would do charity boxing events, and you ever see in Rocky III when he fought Hulk Hogan?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, I had that happen to me. There was a guy named Tex Cobb, and he had been a heavyweight contender, but he was probably the toughest man in the world.
Yeah.
And he, 6'5", 250 pounds. And we're doing a charity event, and they went, "Oh, you know what, Joe? We're gonna put you with Tex." I went, "Oh," my father's like, "What are you, nuts?" I said, "Well, Dad, everybody takes a beating someday. Today's going to be my day, I guess." I'm like, I'm ready to go. What am I going to do? It's a charity event. I'm like, we're raising money for somebody who's dying. I'm like, I went out there. He beat the crap out of me, broke my cheek, broke my nose, tried to pick me up, throw me out of the ring. It was just, and everybody thought, hey, this is great. And I'm like, yeah, and that's still paying for it, But Stallone actually heard about it. When we were making Creed, he goes, "Did you really fight Tex Cobb?" Now, Tex Cobb, for somebody that maybe, because you're not with boxing, did you ever see the movie Raising Arizona?
Yeah.
The warthog from hell on the motorcycle.
Oh yeah.
That's him.
Big kind of.
Yeah, that's Tex Cobb.
I don't want to call him ugly, but he was like a big ass. Yeah.
That was him. That's him, right? That's who I had to fight. And and so Sly said, and I said, yeah, you don't want to hear about that. And he goes, no, I want to tell me the story. And I'm like, nah, you don't want to hear that. And they were like, they were ready to do a scene. And he goes, no, you tell me the story and you wait. Told them to wait. So I told them the whole story of what happened, and you're not allowed. They didn't like, he doesn't like when you imitate him.
Yeah.
Why, but I kept throwing stuff in there all the time, So I said, well, Tex, right? And he said, sure. And I said, that big laugh he always has, that and he goes, yeah. I go, you know what made him laugh like that? He came up to me and told my kids were in my corner at them. They were only little kids. And they said, I tried to knock your daddy out. He wouldn't go down, but I tried. And I said, why? Why the hell did you do that to me? I said, look at my face. I said, this is for friggin' charity. We weren't even getting paid for this. What the frig? And he looked at me and shook his head. And so I looked at him and I went, sometimes charity really hurts. And Sly went, oh, don't do that again. But yeah, people do that all the time. They always, put you with the bigger guy, and a lot of times I'm game for it. But I would probably do something.
Like also, like when we try to throw something at a bar, in order for us as a promoter to get them to let us do it there for free, we got a promise that like guys are going to stay there eating and drinking.
Yes.
You put the pros first, and everybody fucking leaves after the first match.
Because that's what I sell them on. I tell them on, this isn't like we're putting an amateur boxing show on here. These kids, they come in, they can't be eating or drinking anything, and then whatever. I said, you not only do you got the fans coming for them who are going to eat and drink, but the competitors are standing there. There's no rules. They can't drink beer or have a cheesesteak. They can do that. But
so you want everybody supporting the venue. Yeah.
And it just builds, and that's the other part what's good with this is the fans and anybody in the bar is interacting with the people like literally while they're competing. I mean, you don't get.
That's the greatest thing about this sport. Like, if you go to an event and there's a top arm wrestler there, like Devin Larratt or something, you can arm wrestle them.
Yes.
If you go to a football game or a baseball game, you ain't fucking playing.
No. You're not having a catch with Bryce Harper.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the best part about our sport is not big enough yet where those guys fucking won't talk to you or avoid you and shit.
Well, that was like what I liked. I got talked into years ago when I was done fighting. I got talked into pro wrestling. Yeah, pro wrestler. I was, and again, they talked me into doing a Rocky gimmick. So instead of the Italian Stallion, I was the Palermo Pony. So I wore the hat, the fedora, the glove, the leather gloves with no fingers, the leather jacket, the gray sweatshirt, but it said Palermo Pony on it. And I take a beating from guys like King Kong Bundy and Jimmy Snook, and all these guys are throwing me to free. Then all of a sudden the music would start playing, the Rocky music, and I somehow come back, choke one of them out or throw them out or whatever. But the really cool part to that is the fans with that. They were the same thing. They really wanted to interact with you. And these guys are like selling other guys are selling their autograph pictures. I was like, I give them to anybody that wants them. You know what I mean? And little kids, they really look forward to that, they get that fan experience with that, and with a lot of other sports, like you said, football, baseball, when the hell do you ever, basketball, anything like that? I mean, hockey, especially, Craig, you never could get anywhere near a guy, I mean, they're on the ice rink, and then when they're on, they're out, these type of sports, like, again, because they're individual sports, and you build your own brand, and that's what, and people like to keep coming and see, because when we were doing with the claw one, people would say, oh, is this guy going to be wrestling? And, because people start to they start to like get into it.
Yeah.
That's what's neat. It can't just be for one person or this or that. You got to get them like kind of hooked on it to where they want to keep coming back. Then we would get guys that were coming just to watch, and then thought, you know what, I'd like to try this. I'd like to learn. I'd like, and it's something that guys like us can pass on to the next group.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, what we found at times is the people that are most full of themselves are not the 2%ers that show up, but the upper end of the 98ers that, think they're, a little bit higher and mightier than, they really are.
And then they get knocked right down. But guess what? Just like in boxing, guy comes in the gym, wants to fight, you put him in the ring, see with somebody who's only halfway decent. If he gets beat up, knocked down, whatever, comes back the next day, you got somebody there you can teach. Because
dude, like when these big gym bros come in all jacked up and they think they're gonna crush, we put them with the smallest guy.
Right, and then all of a sudden, how'd that happen?
But then they're hooked because they're like, show me how you did that to me.
That I always used to laugh is in bars. That's for as little as I am. That's the easy way to win. You get gigantic guys and they think they're going to beat me, and I'm going. They're like, "There's no way this can happen." And I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead, sit down, bring it." I'll bet you for drinks. And it's like because you don't know the techniques. You don't know. You don't do this. Your arms aren't even at the. You might think your arms are at the strength for this, but it's something that you're not doing. So that's the kind of thing where you wake up the next day and go, "Oh wow, muscles hurt that I didn't know I had," and
Yeah. And the people that cause us to roll our eyes the most are the ones that say, "I've never lost."
Yeah. That's a bunch of bullshit because everybody has. Everybody's lost in this. I mean, you think I was beating all those kids at that school? After a while, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, all right, just what I was doing with a lot of them was I would lock out and I would get it like about this far from being hitting the table, and I would just hold it there forever until they finally go, Mike, one of us is giving up, and I'm and they just like, all right,
What age group was that? Senior high
yeah,
school?
Yeah. So they were freshmen. So some of them, they kept getting. There were some of these guys who. This one big black kid came up. My hand disappeared in his. He was about 6'8". And I'm like, I said, I don't believe this. I'm like, and they just got in a line. It just kept coming up. And I'm like, this hand and that hand. And I'm like, I said, oh my God. Yeah. I was there for about 45 minutes, just arm wrestling. Never stopped. I'm telling you, for a week, my arms, I felt like I was doing like this. I'm like, oh my God.
Especially when you haven't done it in a while.
No, that's what I said. I said to the teacher, I said, I thought I was coming here and I was going to teach them a little bit and then have them do a little tournament.
Yeah.
Oh, no. We wanted the full Joey I experience.
Oh, my God.
Every dollar out of me, ain't you? Megan, yeah, but.
That's pretty funny. I mean, that's really generous of you to go there and offer your time to hang out with the kids.
And then I gave two speeches, separate speeches to two different classes, like this junior, the freshmen and sophomores, and then juniors and seniors. So I give them all each a 45-minute speech.
Yeah.
And then later in the day, me and a friend who is also involved in boxing, and I also have a friend out in Baltimore where we were at. He come in and we gave two different hour-long boxing classes each to the kids and everything like that. And then we were playing bocce ball with them. And
Kenny Smith said they loved it.
Yeah, they really. Those kids were so great. They're screaming. My friend was going, "Oh man, yeah." I go, "I know. I'm not going to live this one down at home." He goes, "Oh no." He's like, "Man," he's going. They're screaming when I'm walking out into the gym where I had to make the speech, and they're screaming, "Joey, we love you!" And I'm like, I said, "Oh Jesus Christ!" I said, "Yeah," but I'm like, "Yeah." But yeah, they really did. They're really polite. Smart kids. I mean, these kids are, they're not like street urchins, you know what I mean? Like, but they're so respectful, and it was really a great thing that they do. I fell into this because there's an Italian museum in South Philadelphia on Passyunk Ave.
Yeah, and
it's for immigrants, and I was an immigrant. I was adopted. I was sent here from Palermo, Sicily.
Yeah,
and so. They have this, you go in and there's a tour of the whole thing, and it starts with like Vespucci and Columbus. It goes all the way through, and it ends with me. They have all my stuff, like every Hall of Fame that I'm in, my wrestling stuff. When I used to do a tribute to Evel Knievel, and I used to jump over 5 cars to a ring of fire and call myself Evil Eye. They've got all that gear. They got everything. So whenever kids come in for schools, any grade school, high school, college, when it gets to the end, they don't know it, but I pop out and I give them a speech, and because I'm the only person alive that's on the walls, and they literally have pretty much a whole room that has all my stuff in, and that school from Baltimore had come to there for the tour once, and I popped out, and then the Italian teacher from the school contacted me. And would I be willing to come down and do it? So about, I think 3 times now I've gone down there every couple years, and they treat me like I'm a rock star or something. But and it turns out, small world, that teacher, her husband does genealogy stuff, and he did the genealogy on my family name that adopted me, right?
Yeah.
And he said, and it turned out that me and him were related.
That's pretty cool.
Like wow, I'm like related to the lady that stumbled on this whole thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But it's really not. I mean, and you should see the school down there. I mean, it's like, it's like a beautiful, it's huge. It's right there in Baltimore, which is like if you were in Kensington, you know what I mean? But the grounds of this school is just immaculate and beautiful, and it's it was really nice. But like I said, it's really nice to be treated like that, and and they got a lot of good questions and stuff like that when but it's nice to they ask about what you do, this and that. And I give little shops like stuff of what I do when I'm working in the corners and wrapping hands and things like that. But yeah,
That's awesome, man, and I'm sure they appreciate the hell out of it.
Yeah, they did. Plus, it's one of those days where you got to go to class, I guess. You know?
Yeah, right.
Well, I got them out of class.
Yeah, that's awesome. So do you have anything next lined up? Like anything coming up that people can keep an eye out for? Or anything you want to plug to our
community? I was in a movie recently that's supposed to come out on Netflix. I don't know exactly when, but it's called Washington Ave. So it's about 9th and Washington, where the Italian market is. And it's about a butcher who's going through a midlife crisis, so he don't want to be a butcher no more. On 9th Street, he wants to be a mob guy.
Yeah.
And so me and the other mob guys, we go, yeah, he's going to rob the owner of the butcher store for us. Like saying, well, I'll give you a taste. We're like, yeah, give us a taste. Bullshit. If the money's really there, he can rob it, and then we get rid of him. And but it's one of those. Cool. He realizes that what, he has it way better than than he realized. Grant
yeah,
I think. And but yeah, and I was chosen for that. A guy from the area that he has a podcast himself, and he had contacted me about would I please be in this? And I said, yeah, sure. So awesome. Play a mean, nasty mob guy named Frankie D. But that's coming up soon. Yeah, and then our other thing, like I said, the Sharky Twins, we got another episode or two to do, and then we got to see where we stand with it once it's all edited. And what else have I got coming up? I got a million things. Speaking of Baltimore, they just, while I was there at the school, the president of the Baltimore Boxing Hall of Fame announced that I'll go into their Hall of Fame this year. Which honor, and I recently last month in March went into the New York Hall of Fame. So that makes 6 I'll be in. So that's awesome. 50, I can't get a cup of coffee. But it's real. And what you can look out for also is, like playing cards, like baseball cards and all of it, right?
Yeah.
Well, they used to have boxing ones.
Yeah.
And they stopped doing them years ago. Well, somebody brought back the company called Brown's Boxing Cards. And they brought them back, and they put a set out. And all the money that for the proceeds of it go to help amateur boxing and to help the New Jersey Hall of Fame and the New York Hall of Fame. And they made them, and just this past around Christmas time, they contacted me, and I signed the papers and whatever, and I will have a playing card of me. So
nice.
So hey, it's every kid's dream, right? To be on a baseball.
Hell yeah, dude, that's pretty cool, man.
So that's cool. And then
awesome.
Also, if you're into smoking cigars, a guy approached me who has a cigar company, and they want to put my name on a cigar. I don't know if it's going to make it taste any better, but so
Joey I Stogie.
Yeah, I think it's going to be called Joey I Round 1 or something like that. And then I'm always somewhere. I'm always working fights somewhere or some event. But So
well, I'll talk to you off air.
Sure.
I'll send you a message. But we have like a big first timers tournament coming up. Maybe we can work together and get some guys in boxing to come out and try arm wrestling or get some arm wrestlers to try boxing and kind of promote something.
Do something like that. Yeah, and make those worlds collide.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
that would be cool.
I'd love to see something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we got it's in August.
Keeps any of this stuff going is worth
And we're doing it in August in Cherry Hill.
Okay, I live right near there. Yeah, so
perfect.
Yeah.
So we'll talk. Maybe we can work something out. That'd be cool.
All right. Yeah.
And but thanks for coming on, man, and thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime you want to come on, you let us know. We'd be happy to have you.
I got a problem with talking. I'm shy,
You would like our Friday nights, and we open up Friday night to anybody that wants to come on.
Come on. Oh, that's good
like
too.
20% arm wrestling, and then the rest is just show. Yeah.
What kind of chips you like better, ruffled or
yeah.
Richard? But
it gets crazy, especially after midnight. It gets real crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But we're gonna end the live, and thanks again for coming on, and If anybody wants to reach out to Joey, he's on Facebook. Shoot him a message and say hello. And yeah, dude, legend. Nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Ryan. I really appreciate you guys having me, man.
Anytime, man.
All right.
All right, we're gonna end this. Thanks everybody for watching. Love it. Kenny said good stuff.